never thought I'd be sitting in front of a camera telling this story. But after I read that post about the guy who let his best friend move into his house and then wanted to share a bedroom with her, I realized I have to speak up, because that story, it's literally about me. I was that husband. No, I'm not that specific guy from the post, but I was exactly the same. I also had a childhood friend I called my sister. I also made excuses for her behavior in front of my wife. And I also almost lost everything. So I want to break this situation down not as a psychologist, but as a man who stepped on the same rake and barely escaped. If you're a man and you have a Fiona like that, stay. If you're a woman and your man acts the same way, listen. It'll help you understand what's going on in his head. I'm not promising easy answers, but I'm promising you the truth. Let's get one thing straight from the start. I'm not going to use their real names. I'll call the guy Max, his wife Laura, and the friend Mia. It's not them, but the essence is the same. And the story started long before I met Laura. Mia and I grew up in the same neighborhood. Our parents were friends, we went to kindergarten together, school, college. We were inseparable. She knew all my secrets. I knew all of hers. We shared first kisses, first disappointments, we even tried dating a couple of times. But it was so strange and awkward that we decided we're just friends. Well, that's what I thought. She might have thought differently, but I didn't notice. I was sure she was my best friend, my rock, my sister. And when I met Laura, I was happy. Laura was different, warm, caring, genuine. She didn't know me from childhood, but she saw me for who I was in the present. And I fell in love for real. But Mia wasn't thrilled. She didn't say directly that I'd made a mistake, but she always found a way to put Laura in an awkward position. She'd say things like, "Oh, you still wear mascara? I stopped at your age." Or, "Max always liked girls who know how to behave in company, but I guess everyone's entitled to a mistake now and then." I heard it, but I didn't pay it any mind. I thought, well, Mia's just straightforward. She's always been that way. Laura will get used to it. And Laura tried to get used to it. She endured it because she loved me. But I didn't see how much she was suffering. I only saw that Mia was going through a rough patch. Her boyfriend had left. She was depressed. She needed me. And I considered it my duty to be there for her. And then came that moment I remember with a shudder. Mia asked to stay with us. She said she couldn't stand being alone, that she was scared, that only I could make her feel safe. I asked Laura if it was okay, and she agreed. I saw her reluctance, but I convinced her it was temporary. I said, "She's like a sister, we're just helping her out." Laura gritted her teeth and nodded, and I was grateful to her for that. But Mia, as soon as she moved in, started establishing her own rules. She didn't like the food, didn't like how we decorated the house, didn't like the movies we watched. She criticized everything. And instead of defending my wife, I apologized to Mia. I said, "We'll fix it, we'll take that into account." I justified myself by saying she was depressed, that she needed understanding. I turned my home into her sanctuary and my wife into an outsider. And then the climax. One day I came home from work and saw Laura standing in the doorway, pale, lips trembling. She said that Mia had suggested I sleep in the same room with her so she could calm down at night when she woke up with panic attacks. And you know what I did? I didn't shut that idea down immediately. I didn't say, "That's insane. Are you out of your mind?" I said, "Well, it's just temporary. I can set up a cot." I saw how much it hurt Laura, but I convinced myself and her that it was normal, that Mia was like a sister, that nothing was going on between us and never could be. But Laura didn't back down. She said, "If you move in with her, I'm leaving." I thought she was exaggerating, that she was just jealous. And I moved into that room. I don't know what would have happened next if Laura hadn't packed her things that very night. She didn't scream or cry. She just said, "I can't do this anymore. I feel like a stranger in my own home." And she left. I stayed with Mia, who immediately became much happier. She smiled. She offered me wine. She touched my shoulder as if we were a couple. And in that moment I felt for the first time that something was wrong. Something had broken inside. But I didn't want to admit it. I thought, Lara's just tired, she'll come back. But she didn't come back. She filed for divorce. That's how I lost the woman I loved, because of the woman I called a sister. And now, 2 years later, I want to break this story down piece by piece so that if you find yourself in a similar situation, you won't repeat my mistakes. I want you to understand, if your partner says their best friend is like a brother or like a sister, and that friend constantly intrudes on your life, that's not normal. It's not just friendship. It's codependency masquerading as kinship. And if you don't set boundaries, you'll lose everything. So let's go over 5 main signs that this sister is actually a manipulator who doesn't wish you well. I'll speak from my own experience because I've been through it. And if you recognize these signs in your situation, please don't close your eyes. The first sign, she always puts herself first. My Mia constantly said, "You're my best friend. I can't survive without you. Only you understand me." And when I heard that, I felt important. I thought I was needed. But the truth was she didn't need me. She needed my attention, and she demanded it at the expense of my relationship. She never asked Lara how she was doing. Her interest was only in me. And when Lara tried to step in, Mia made it seem like jealousy, like immaturity. She made Lara look insecure and herself look like the victim. And I, like a fool, fell for it every time. The second sign, she criticizes your partner, but does it in the form of jokes or concern. Mia would say, "Oh Lara, you have such a funny taste in clothes. But I understand, not everyone has money for nice things." Or, "You're so cute when you try to make jokes, but I guess that's from stress." And every time I heard this, I didn't defend Lara. I thought Mia was just awkward, that she didn't mean to hurt, but she did mean to. She wanted Lara to feel small and worthless. And I allowed it because I didn't want conflict with Mia. The third sign, she demands exclusive access to you. Mia called me at all hours of the day and night. She messaged me when Lara and I were at a restaurant or watching a movie. She asked for advice, complained, cried, and I dropped everything to answer. I thought I was being a good friend, but I was actually being a bad husband. I gave Mia what I should have been giving only to Lara, my undivided attention. The fourth sign, she never supports your relationship. When I told Mia I wanted to marry Lara, she didn't say, "I'm happy for you." She said, "Are you sure? You've known each other such a short time, don't rush." And I thought she was just worried. But she wasn't worried about me. She was afraid of losing her place. She wanted me to stay hers alone. The fifth sign, she tries to physically take the partner's place. That room. When Mia suggested I sleep in the same room with her, I didn't see anything strange about it. To me, it was just an extension of our sibling bond. But to Lara, it was humiliation. And to any woman, it would be humiliation. And if your brother or sister asks you for something like that, know this, it's no longer friendship. It's manipulation. I'm not proud that I was so blind, but I want you not to repeat my mistakes. If you see yourself in these signs, stop. Ask yourself, what matters more, your family or the person who constantly creates problems in your relationship? And if you choose your family, you have to be ready to set firm boundaries. It's not just saying no. It's saying no and not backing down. So I've told you how blind I was, how I let my sister destroy my marriage, how I moved into that room and lost Lara. But I haven't told you what happened next. And what happened next turned me completely around. I sat in my empty apartment because Lara had left, and Mia, oddly enough, also left after 2 days. She said she couldn't watch me suffer and that she needed time. But I knew the truth. She'd simply realized my resources were tapped out. I could no longer be her support because I was broken. And she just vanished. I was alone in a house where every wall reminded me how I'd betrayed the woman I loved. For a week, I couldn't get off the couch. I didn't go to work. I didn't answer calls. I just lay there staring at the ceiling. I reread old messages from Lara, her kind words, her requests for me to be more attentive, her tears at the end. And I realized I hadn't just lost my wife. I'd lost myself. Because I'd lived so long under Mia's direction that I'd stopped understanding what I wanted. I'd become her extension, her puppet. And when she left, I was left an empty shell. But then, on the 8th day, I told myself, stop, you can't live like this. You're a man, you need to pull yourself together. And I started taking action. Not because I was strong, I was shattered. But I understood that if I didn't start piecing myself back together, I would simply die inside. The first thing I did, I found a psychologist. Not because I was weak, but because I realized my mind was warped. I was so used to Mia's manipulations that I'd stopped telling truth from lies. I couldn't trust my intuition because it had been drowned out by other people's voices. And the psychologist helped me. He said one thing I'll never forget. You don't have to sacrifice yourself for someone who's not ready to sacrifice for you. And that hit home. All those years I'd considered it my duty to save Mia, forgetting that I'm not her savior. I'm a man who has a right to his own happiness. The second thing I did, I wrote Lara a letter. Not a text, not a call. A real letter on paper. I didn't ask her to come back. I didn't beg. I just told the truth. I wrote, Lara, you were right. I was blind. I didn't defend you because I didn't see the threat. I was wrong. I'm not asking you to forgive me. I want you to know I've started working on myself. And if you ever want to talk, I'm here. But I won't chase you. That was the hardest letter of my life. Because I knew she might not reply. And she didn't. And I accepted that. The third thing I did, I cut off contact with Mia. I blocked her number. I removed her from social media. I told myself, if she's the reason for your downfall, she shouldn't be part of your rise. And you know what happened? Mia started calling from other numbers, messaging through friends, begging me to talk. She said I'd betrayed her, that she couldn't live without me. But I held firm, because I remembered her smile when I moved into her room. I remembered how she didn't cry when Lara left. I realized she was never my sister. She was my addiction. The fourth thing, I started working on myself. I went to the gym, I read books, I found a new hobby. I started playing guitar. I didn't become perfect in a month, but I started feeling human again. I stopped looking for someone to blame and started looking for solutions. And you know what happened 6 months later? I ran into Lara by chance at a cafe. She was sitting with a friend, looking calm. I walked over, said hello, asked how she was doing. We talked for 10 minutes, and she said, "You've changed. You look different." I said, "Yes, I've changed. I finally became myself." She smiled, but didn't suggest continuing the conversation. And I walked away. I didn't chase her. I was just grateful she'd seen my progress. We didn't get back together. This isn't a happy ending story, but I got myself back. And now when I look at that story you read about Max, Lara, and Mia, I see myself. And I see that Max still has a chance, if he does what I did. If he stops making excuses and starts working on himself. Because, friends, I want to tell you one thing. If you're a man and you have a sister who always comes first, know this. It's not friendship, it's addiction. And you don't have to be her support. You have the right to your own life, your own boundaries, your own happiness. You don't have to sacrifice your wife for someone who can't understand that they have their own life to live. You don't have to be her savior if she doesn't want to save herself. I know some of you will say, but I love her. She's my friend. I can't abandon her in a difficult moment. Friends, I understand. I was the same way. But I want you to ask yourself, who truly needs your help, the one who constantly creates problems, or the one trying to build a future with you? Who is actually your family, the one who demands your attention, or the one who waits for your love? I'm not saying you should break all friendships. I'm talking about boundaries. You can support a friend, but you don't have to share a bedroom with them when you have a wife. You can empathize, but you don't have to sacrifice your marriage. You can be kind, but you don't have to be a puppet. And if you recognize yourself in the story, I have a request. Stop. Look at your relationship objectively. Ask yourself, what am I doing wrong? Why does my wife feel like a stranger? Why do I justify the behavior of someone who hurts her? And if you answer those questions honestly, you'll know what to do. In my case, I realized I just needed to say no. No when Mia asked to stay with us. No when she criticized Lara. No when she suggested sharing a room. But I didn't say no, and I lost Lara. But I want you to know, even if you've lost your Lara, you don't have to lose yourself. You can become better. You can learn to respect yourself and others. And one day, when you meet someone who sees the real you, you'll be ready for that meeting. Because you'll be whole, not someone else's extension. Thank you for listening to the end. I know that was long, but I wanted you to understand, I'm not judging Max from that story. I just want him and everyone like him to know there's still time. Time to change. Time to set boundaries. Time to save yourself. If you're a man and you recognized yourself, I'm asking you, write to me in the comments. Tell me what you're feeling, what you're thinking. Maybe we can help each other. If you're a woman who's been through this, tell me how you felt. I want to understand what it looks like from your side, because I want to see both sides. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. I'll have more videos about boundaries and male psychology. Hit like if you feel this topic matters. And remember, you're not alone. We all make mistakes, but we can learn from them. Good luck, and may your choices be the right ones.